You know about the highs and lows of cannabis investing. It's a big Lucy in football story going back years, and I'm wondering how you're looking at this, if this is good news for the sector or if you're disappointed like so many investors are.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I don't think there's any way to look at this as a disappointment. This was the single biggest news for the cannabis industry since Tricky Dick, pulled his shtick back in the day. Um, the way the administration has gone about this is very thoughtful. And I think yesterday there was a fair amount of confusion. There were people who were expecting a
Yeah.
full rescheduling. But and the more I spent yesterday very in deep into the night, absorbing and reading and talking and listening to people who were closest to the situation, they're ecstatic for a few reasons. One, this is a multi-step process. So we did what we could through the Single Convention on Narcotic Drug Treaty, which is the same UN treaty that enables Germany and others to participate in the medical markets. So by doing that, you've now taken the burden of Schedule 1 away from medical. Yes, it's a little cloudy at first, but that's what we can do now. And importantly, has now accepted the recommendation of Biden's HHS, but canceled Biden's process, appointed a new ALJ judge for June 28th, with with that concluding by no later than I think early July, to reschedule adult use, the rest of the space, so to speak. And they're doing that to avoid legal jeopardy. If they would have just tried to reschedule without the ALJ hearings, the chances of a legal stay would have increased. So this is very much a thoughtful, surgical move. We've already seen the Treasury come out the same day, yesterday, and say that they're going to be issuing guidance. We saw in this act yesterday that they're advising. I don't know how much weight that will carry, but they are advising vacating back taxes for medical 280E. This has been the huge overhang. Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, right.
And importantly, I think it's going to unlock a lot of the halo effect, whether that's custody and uplisting, or whether it's new states like Virginia, Pennsylvania, Texas. There's 26 states that are tied to the federal Controlled Substances Act. So we expect this to have a pretty massive effect as people digest the news.
It's really, I guess it's a game of expectations and patience, right? You've put so many years into this, Todd, with raising expectations, stocks go up, and then you find some sort of disappointment because policymakers or politicians can't get things done. Safe banking seemed like a sure thing. It passed the House something like 15 times. It's just not going to become law anytime soon. And I'm wondering if that's the essence of the cannabis investor. You have to be happy with what you get. You might, I guess, see the long road, but this is a slow grind. And I wonder if you see that changing under this administration.
No, we do. President Trump, we were talking with him. I work with Weldon Angelos at Mission Green, who Trump pardoned. We've been talking with the administration since before he was elected, and, say what you will, but promises made, promises kept. He flagged during his campaign that there were 4 issues that he intended on tackling. Rescheduling was one of them. Banking was another, clemencies and states' rights. And so far, he's on track, and he's done it in a way that demonstrates thoughtfulness and that the work is being done.
When will banking happen, Todd?
Well, that's an interesting question, because that, to me, is really the unlock, right? And I heard Boris and Boris Jordan, the chairman and CEO of Curaleaf, yesterday talk about how this could potentially facilitate uplisting. We need to get custody first. The reason these stocks are in such a quagmire is because they're listed on third-tier exchanges in Canada, and they're being dominated by algorithmic agendas, right? With no institutional bid, no short squeeze potential, no M&A potential because it's Schedule 1. All of that will come off the table, or is in the process of coming off the table. So that is already happening. I think what people are missing is that this is the first step. We just got to the starting gate. This isn't like mission accomplished. This is okay. Now, for the industry has always needed 3 things: growth, regulatory parity, and tax clarity, right? You have the hemp loophole closing in November. The growth of THC over the last decade has been massive, right? And the normalization of THC has been massive, but it's been bifurcated and bogarted by the hemp channel, right? There was no such thing as intoxicating hemp 8 years ago, right? So the demand is there. And as that moves back into the regulated channel and as other states adopt, we think that growth will return. Regulatory parity, we took a big step yesterday, and we have a timeline on the rest of it. We do expect Treasury and other agencies, the IRS, to come out with guidance, which would check the box on tax clarity. Those are the three amigos, right? And they're all within sight. They just got to get, the fact that Trump let them across the border is a miracle into itself. But as I said, promises made, promises kept.
Really interesting. Todd, did you start the MSOS ETF? Is that your baby?
Well, no, that's advisor shares. We do work with them.
Yeah.
We advise them on the ETF. It's the largest. Sorry about that. It's the largest pure cannabis ETF out there. We've been with them since inception of September 2020. I believe the high tick in February 10th of 2021 was in the 55.20. I think you said high 40. It was 55.
There you go.
With the thought that we would eventually get to where we are now. Obviously, there's been a lot of other issues. There's been lack of capital. There's been price degradation. There's been a number of different issues that have plagued the industry. But I think the biggest, from a stock standpoint, is A, the ability to custody these stocks, B, the ability for these stocks to list on exchanges and get the types of cap tables that this category needs to sustain itself and pull itself back out as a normalized industry.
Yeah. Interesting. I've got less than 2 minutes left, Todd. I don't want to set you up, but I'd love to hear before you leave us your thoughts on what this industry is or could be based on expectations. Like I said, maybe 5 years ago when this legalization push was really happening, we were going into COVID, and there was a thought that the Biden administration would bring a big turn here and provide huge growth to the industry. Is the TAM what you thought it would be, the total addressable market, or is this simply a smaller industry that a lot of investors were bracing for?
No, I think the TAM is bigger than anybody anticipated. You only have to look at what alcohol is doing in terms of the alcohol sales. All right. I mean, they're falling off a cliff. There's a lot of replacement. And I think the more we understand this magnificent plant, the more we're going to understand it's not about getting high, it's about getting well. The first phase, as you alluded to, funded capacity in Canada, that was a gold rush, and we know how that ended. This phase now that we're entering is US-based CPG, and we're going to see entrants in that category with cannabis as an ingredient across a number of use cases. 3.0, which is what we're most excited about, is the efficacious agility, right? It's working with companies like Indira Pharmaceuticals and others that we think are going to replicate it in essence, the pathway that GW Pharmaceuticals, the biotech pathway, in demonstrating efficacious agility and industrial use cases. So we think that this story is just getting started. I'm notoriously early. I might be 10 or 15 years early in this case, but by the time my kids are my age,